and headlines and all sorts of things.
Absolutely. What's going on there, Kay and guys? Well, as we know, prior to the draft, the Chiefs decided to shore up their offensive line to protect Patrick Mahomes, and thus the Ravens ended up trading away Orlando Brown to KC, and thus it left a big void on the offensive line for Baltimore. So they turned to a familiar foe to fill that vacancy. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport is reporting Baltimore signing this man right here, veteran left tackle Alejandro Villanueva, to a 2-year, $14 million deal with $8 million guaranteed. Villanueva was a 2-time Pro Bowler in 6 seasons with the Steelers. Meanwhile, Jets defensive lineman Quinnen Williams broke a small bone in his foot and will undergo surgery. Williams is expected to be sidelined for 8 to 10 weeks. He'll miss OTAs and minicamp, but should be good to go for training camp in mid-July. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott continuing his recovery from a season-ending ankle injury. We recently saw footage of Prescott throwing on social media. And on the topic of the media, he spoke to reporters at an event on Tuesday and said he's game ready.
I mean, close. I mean, I can go play in the game right now and it might be very, very successful. So there's no doubt that when I need to be successful, when I need to do the things that it takes to be on the field, I'll do exactly that, and the time will be right.
Now, it's unclear if Prescott will do any on-the-field work prior to training camp in July, but needless to say, Kay and guys, great to hear that kind of confidence coming from Dak Prescott. Clearly, the recovery is going well.
It'll be such an interesting division, the NFC East. Not thrilling last year, but exciting in its own ways and should be way more competitive with the return of Dak Prescott, some other guys around the division. So let's talk about the Eagles now, and we think you will. 3 seasons removed from winning the Super Bowl. The team is looking to bounce back from missing the playoffs back in 2020. Now, GM Howie Roseman, friend of the show, was asked how the team was approaching the quote-unquote rebuild heading into this year.
In 2016, people were telling us it was going to take 5 years, and we did it in 12 months. That's a challenge that we want to do better on. We want to do it quicker. We want to win as many games as possible. Now, everyone is sitting there thinking a certain thing about our football team, and you just said it, we have a lot of good players. We have a lot of good players. We have a lot of good people, and we got to keep building on top of that to climb that mountain again, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to win as many games as possible, and we're going to continue to build the roster. Like, our fans deserve that. The people in our building deserve that. Our players deserve that. I think I said to you last year before the season, we don't spend all year trying to make this team as good as possible to not try to compete. That's crazy.
Howie's words there. Nate, again, we talked reasonable expectations. We're talking for the Jets now. We're talking, again, reasonable expectations, realistic expectations for the Eagles this year.
I have no idea how to look at this division. So I can't sit here on May 5th and tell you who's going to win a certain amount of games. But I'll look at the players on the roster, and I'll just say realistic expectations. How about Miles Sanders takes another leap and proving that he's one of the best backs in the business? A couple of 1,000-yard seasons. Let's go 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns plus. He can improve on both of those numbers if he wants to.
Wow.
Wide receiver Devontae Smith come in right out the gate. You go that high in the draft, number 10 overall, we want you to be a pure number 1 in a 1,000-yard receiver. Rookie year, 1,000 yards. Lofty goals, but listen, we saw Justin Jefferson come in and ball out for the Minnesota Vikings. On the defense side of the ball, they had almost 50 sacks, third in the NFL. How about you just create a stout defense? One thing you can always hang your hat on, regardless of what happens on the offensive side of the ball, stubbing your toe, Jalen Hurts learning how to become a starter over the course of the year. If you have a defense that you know is always going to show up week in and week out, have the most sacks in the NFL, be number 1 in sacks. If you can do those things, I'm pretty sure Howie Roseman, everybody in the front office, and the players in that locker room can look at their season and say, we're headed in the right direction.
And I would agree with you. The expectation is to win the division. And, Howie takes a lot of heat, and so I liked him talking a little junk almost, like showing receipts. In 2015, the Eagles were 7-9. They were a bad team. They fired their head coach, and then I feel like 20 minutes later, they were in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's an incredible accomplishment that they did, and it was based on having faith in a quarterback with a lot of questions around him. And yeah, I mean, in that division, last year's a bunch of idiot drunks in a parking lot having a boxing match. Like, of course you can win it. Now it's like, Come to find out, like maybe some of those guys can fight. It's almost like a little like a Jake Paul fight card. Like who are these people? Wait a second, he can actually throw a punch a little
Pretty
bit.
entertaining.
I look at this division differently because there is not a Tampa Bay or a Kansas City or even a Green Bay. It's like, wow, we got to find a way to take them out. I guess Dallas, hasn't been much for a long time. And the rest of these teams, I don't know who Washington's quarterback is. I don't have any faith in Daniel Jones yet. So why not? If Jalen Hurts makes the jump, as Wentz did in his second year under Philly, yes, they could win the division, especially if it does take 10 wins to do it. So yes, May 5th, I say that for a lot of teams, but any team in this division win the division. That's the expectation.
Jalen Hurts was 1-3 as a starter last year. He's obviously pulled in that game in Week 17. Probably would have won that game if they had left him in. I think so, at least. And they didn't draft a quarterback. They had 11 picks. They didn't draft a quarterback. They didn't go in ahead and take one when Fields and Mac Jones were on the board. So to me, Kay, clock is already ticking on Jalen Hurts. Like right now, it's already ticking. You got a one-year deal because they have 3 first-round picks next year. And that is real ammunition in a draft where you can move up, you can move down, you can do anything. If Carson Wentz plays 70% of the snaps in Indianapolis, they get the Colts first-round pick. They already have the Dolphins first-round pick, and they'll have their own first-round pick. So this guy, this is all it is. To me, is he the starter for the foreseeable future, or is he a 1 year, let's give it a shot, he's a second-round pick, might as well start him. If I see Flacco competing with Jalen Hurts, we're in trouble. Because that's the backup right now. And if Jalen Hurts doesn't take this job running away, the expectation for me is that Jalen Hurts establishes himself as the #1 quarterback, and then we're looking towards the future, and we got our quarterback of the future at a really low price. But I don't see this team being competitive for a Super Bowl or an NFC title this season, not at all.
If Hurts has it, they should be able to put up some points. I ask you, this Zach Ertz thing, anybody know anything about this? There was like an emotional farewell to the Eagles at some point after the season, and then Howie Roseman, as late as 2 days ago, was saying he's in his prime, he's on the roster, we're excited about the season. This is an all-pro tight end. It sort of matters for me when I'm talking expectations for the Eagles. This is a guy who has like 80 grabs a year when back in he was really rolling out the same quarterback. But Triggs, any insight into this? Because open to a trade, not open to a trade, where are we at?
We heard a lot of rumors in free agency he was being traded to the Bills. He wasn't. Then we heard a lot of rumors during the draft that he was going to be shopped. He wasn't. He's under contract, and he might not be thrilled with his contract situation. The Eagles might be looking at that salary cap number and saying it's absurd they're paying him that, but he is a Philadelphia Eagle right now. Well, monitor. He's a beloved Eagle. I mean, it's crazy. He's one of the great good guys of the league. Yet
he moved his life to Philly, fell in love with Philly.
I mean, this is interesting, but he seems to think he's done.
Well, his play's falling off too. Like, he's not producing like he used to, and he's probably the second best tight end on the team. It's a tough situation though. They have a bunch of them.
Is it his play or what's going on in the offense?
A little both.
Yeah.
He's a wild card. I feel like we talked about the Jets earlier in this show, and it was so much about Selva. Like, Sirianni, to me, is a huge mystery. And the Eagles have a history of picking some unusual head coaches, including Doug Peterson, which is a strange choice.
I don't think Jalen Hurts was anyone's first choice at quarterback around the league. I don't think Nick Sirianni necessarily was either. So you're dealing with a coach and a quarterback who weren't first-round picks, per se. And you're going up against an NFL that is almost rooting against you with the way that the people reacted to the move with Peterson and, of course, with Carson Wentz. So it's Eagles against the world, and it's just another season of that.
Do you get the sense that they love Jalen Hurts, that they think he has it?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
The draft was pretty compelling.
It was a great
the fact that they didn't take
a quarterback.
It's a huge statement.
But we'll see.